What's going on, guys? Austin with NSG TV here, and I wanted to start a new little mini series called the No Surrender Garage, and really just document a project vehicle that I've had for a while that's finally going to be gaining some traction, and hopefully we're going to finish this project once and for all. So I just kind of want to take you guys along for that, and see if there's anyone else out there who thinks that it's a cool vehicle or a cool build, and kind of just wants to follow along for the ride, and also give me some accountability on the project as well. So what I have behind me here is my 1987 Cabriolet Hot Shot, and I've had it for a few years now, nicknamed the Vuck because it is a van truck conversion. And yeah, so we have big plans for this vehicle, the van here, and I'll kind of go over kind of what we've done so far, what needs to be done. I paid a little bit too much for this van, if I'm being honest. The guy who was selling it, I bought it sight unseen, had it delivered to Ohio, and he acted like everything was perfect, ready to go, and basically had no issues. And obviously, you know how that goes, there's tons of issues with it. So I probably overpaid for what it is, but I'm still glad I have it. I'm still glad I have the project, and hopefully we can make it something, awesome that is definitely a head turner and head looker, and hopefully other people get a kick out of the vehicle as well. So when I bought it, I took it straight to my buddy Wes over at Twisted Intention Motorsports, and kind of just had to get a bunch of oil leaks stopped to make it even drivable. So it had a pretty bad oil leak on an external oil pump. The motor was leaking, needed some new seals. The power steering pump was leaking, it leaked brake fluid. There's a gas tank issue with the exterior tank in the back. The rear tank didn't work. The door locks have no keys. It's got fiberglass cracks all over the place. It's definitely a big project. But in terms of this rear gas tank here, this is an actual toolbox. There's a 50-gallon tank back here in the rear, and in this tank, it's a cheaply made gas tank that only has a hose to pull the gas out on one side. So if you're parked on a hill, even if you have 10 gallons in the 50-gallon tank, all that gas can be leaning to one side and kind of just leave you stranded because it can't pick up any gas, or the pump can't pull any gas to start the vehicle. So we have problems with that, but we haven't replaced some of these problems because we know we're going to completely get rid of them once we get into the details of the build. So I mean, I don't know, it's got fiberglass cracks all down the fenders. The big ones are up the doors and across the top of the door frame here, and that's like that on both sides. I already had the one across the top of the windshield fixed. You can see all the fresh white fiberglass up there because the windshield was cracked when I got it, and in order to replace that windshield, that needed to be fixed. Same with this side. We have the cracked fiberglass coming all the way down and along the back door. So a lot of things need to be fixed just to kind of get it running. And then after that, our big thing was for an interior work. So I had the entire interior gutted and redone. You'll notice that this side of the van, the driver's side, only has the driver's side door. And when you open this door, you're going to see fresh vinyl, brand new door panels, brand new carpets, brand new seats. These are the same seats that came in it, just brand new vinyl. We got vinyl on the top here. We got new cab lights. Everything head to toe is virtually new in here. There is a few things that still need to be done. There is no radio, and there's also no CB. The CB radio needs kind of complete. It's not all there, but there's new curtains all the way around, a new kind of futon style bed in the back, with armrests that kind of function as pillows, which I'll show you that as well. So that's kind of what we got done so far, was getting the thing running to a point where it could be daily driven, and doing the interior. Before we had the interior redone, you can see I'm kind of getting in the back door. We have two doors on this side, the passenger's door and the back half door here coming into the cab. But before we had the interior redone, we also had all of the wiring from the firewall back completely redone in here. So all the lights, all the exterior lights, there's LED lights up on top of the cab, the running lights are all done as well, and all that was completely redone to make sure that everything you know, is kind of complete in terms of the interior and the lighting on the exterior of the truck that needed to be wired. We don't have to re-gut this interior to do any of that wiring. And I'll show you what we did with these side panels here, kind of covering the armrest to act as a pillow, because obviously this thing lays down as a bed, but we can fold this guy up. It's a little hard to do with one hand. Fold this guy up, and there is a buckle underneath that can keep this guy buckled up out of the way, and you have access to your side storage and your cup holder. So you can keep them buckled up and kind of stowed out of the way for when somebody's riding back here. There are seat belts for this back seat, but if you're turning it into a bed, you can lay these things flat, and that way when this thing is laid down as a bed, your feet aren't hanging off into the cup holders, and you have somewhere to kind of put your head as well. So that's something that we thought was pretty cool in the build. All the, you know, storage latches below the seat has latches. Everything was completely redone, and it turned out amazing. So we moving on to like basically the idea of the build. So far, we had tons of ideas. I talked to Wes again over at Twisted Intentions about different build plans and what kind of we could do with this truck, and the options kind of seemed endless. We contemplated gas motor versus diesel motors. If we went gas, we had obviously the obvious option of like an LS swap. We had a Coyote swap. We had a Godzilla swap. There was something kind of partial. I was partial about keeping a Ford motor in here because this is a big block Ford. This is a Ford E350 on the front and a 250 on the rear. That Cabriolet out of Michigan, kind of molded together. They did sell these as you see it. This is the original paint and everything. This is exactly how they came stock from the lot. So this wasn't a Ford vehicle, but they did use a Ford E350 body and F350 back end to kind of piece this whole thing together. So a very unique truck, and that kind of made me want to stay partial to putting a Ford motor into it. However, you know, after talking with him for a while, he was able to give me a screaming deal on a 12-valve Cummins. One of those deals you just can't say no to, and we decided to kind of go the diesel route. It would have been cool to some extent to go with a 7.3, but at the same time, it's, you know, again, a deal you couldn't say no to, and who doesn't love a 12-valve Cummins? The thing's run forever. It was actually a motor that he had built for somebody else who backed out of a project, so he was able to get a hold of the motor for super cheap, and he was willing to help me out and let me buy it off him for a screaming deal to throw it in this truck. So not only are we going to do a Cummins swap on this thing, it's supposed to be headed to Twisted Intentions sometime this week or next. I'm going to hopefully get as much film as I can of, you know, them working on the truck, and also kind of giving us updates as things go by. But we're going to be putting straight axles on it, hopefully making it a 4-wheel drive conversion, and also we're going to do a manual swap on it. So we're going to have a 12-valve manual swap with straight axles, converting it to 4x4, and we're going to be throwing stacks on the exhaust right out the rear, coming straight up on both sides, dual stacks, to kind of make it as much of a miniature semi look as possible, as obviously these things being a hot shot hauler, were kind of meant to resemble miniature big rigs. So we might even do a little bit of a lift to fit some bigger wheels and tires on it. We're not sure. I've seen some people that kind of throw some Alcoas on it to give it the full semi look, and they look sick, but we're not sure exactly what we're going to do in terms of the wheel and tire setup. But it's definitely something else that we had planned on addressing here in this build process. So sometime here in October, we're hoping to start this thing, and he's hoping to have most of it done through December. So by the end of the year, there'll be a lot of changes going on with this truck, if all goes to plan. But yeah, we can't thank Wes and Twisted Intention enough for helping us out on this project. And I really just wanted to kind of have a document series of, you know, what the truck started out as. I do have some video clips of the original interior as well. If you check out my TikTok, you'll be able to see some of those clips with the original interior, and just be able to see what this thing can really turn into with all the swaps. And, you know, hopefully it's freaking sick. So when we're done with this, obviously we're going to be fixing the fiberglass on the exterior and then deciding whether we want to repaint it or wrap it for the business. We do fully plan on using this big rig as a hauling device to haul trailers to all the events when we're going to things like Total Archery Challenge, different events that we go to with our company. We're planning on pulling our trailer with this thing. So it did come with a fifth wheel. The receiver did get taken out of it at some point, so we could always throw one of those back in depending on the trailer size that we need. So we are definitely going to use this thing as a hauler, and for that reason we're deciding whether we want to wrap it or kind of go with an original brown and tan two-tone paint job to match the interior and keep it kind of in that classic 80s inspired Ford look. So if you have an opinion on whether we wrap it with some sick logos, the gas mask, everything, or keep it more of an 80s inspired two-tone stripe paint job, you know, let me know in the comments. But hopefully, again, I can get a ton more footage of the process of getting this truck from as you see it, as it sits right now, to the finished product of, you know, a pretty sick looking 12 valve swapped Cabriolet Hot Shot from the 80s, manual transmission, the works. So that's kind of an overview of the truck. Hope you guys are kind of excited about the build and want to see, you know, how this thing turns out. Hope you guys are excited as I am, I guess. And yeah, like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more updates and videos on this Hot Shot rig. So thanks.